What else was God revealing through the Passover in Exodus chapter 12? We already know that the Passover lamb represents Christ, but beginning in Exodus chapter 12, verses 8 to 11, God gives very specific instructions about how the lamb was to be prepared and eaten. It had to be roasted with fire, eaten with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, and it was not to be boiled with water. This raises an important question. Why would God care how people prepared their food? What difference would it make if someone preferred it boiled instead of roasted? Because once again, God was not teaching people how to cook. He was preaching His Son. The fire in which the lamb was roasted represents the Holy Spirit. God was showing that Christ can only be revealed through the Holy Spirit. Without the Holy Spirit interpreting the Scriptures, we cannot truly know Christ. The instruction that the whole lamb was to be eaten also carries a spiritual meaning. God was teaching that believers must continually receive the whole counsel concerning Christ until, as Paul writes in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 13, we all come unto the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. The lamb was also to be eaten with unleavened bread. In Matthew chapter 16, verse 6, Jesus reveals that leaven represents doctrine. The unleavened bread therefore teaches that the gospel must remain pure, unmixed with the traditions and teachings of men. This also explains why God specifically forbade boiling the lamb. Boiling represents diluting the gospel to make it acceptable to human desires, instead of preserving it exactly as God revealed it through the Holy Spirit. God also commanded that the lamb be eaten with bitter herbs. These bitter herbs represent the persecutions that accompany the true gospel. Jesus speaks of this in Matthew chapter 13, verse 21, where tribulation and persecution arise because of the word. God was showing that those who truly feed upon Christ must also be prepared to share in His sufferings. Paul speaks of these bitter herbs in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 from verse 24 as he recounts the many afflictions he endured for the gospel. Likewise, in Acts chapter 5 verse 40, Peter and the other apostles received their portion of these bitter herbs because they refused to stop preaching Christ. Finally, God commanded that the lamb be eaten at night with haste, and that nothing should remain until the morning. The night represents the present condition of the world. Darkness continues to increase as moral corruption spreads, and the distinction between truth and error becomes increasingly blurred. Yet it is during this darkness that the Israel of God must continue feeding upon Christ through the true gospel. We do so with urgency because we know that the night will not last forever. Matthew chapter 25 verse 6 tells us that at midnight the cry will be heard announcing the coming of the bridegroom. Christ is the morning, and when He comes, He must find His church watching, prepared, and nourished by His word. So what is God teaching through Exodus chapter 12 verses 8 to 11? That Christ is the true Passover lamb, that He is revealed through the Holy Spirit, represented by the fire, that His gospel must remain pure, represented by the unleavened bread. That persecution accompanies all who truly feed upon Him, represented by the bitter herbs, and that while the world grows darker, the church must continue feeding upon Christ with expectation, awaiting the return of the bridegroom. For even the preparation of the Passover meal was never simply about food. From beginning to end, it was proclaiming Jesus Christ,